Welcome to another episode of the Wholesale Elite Podcast. I am Isham and I'm here with my main man, Mr. Tanner Santucci. What up, dude?
What it do?
Man, so guys, today is going to be a little different today. We got Mr. Will Coggins with us today. Will, how are you, buddy?
What's up, guys? So happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. I'm fired up.
Absolutely.
Happy to have you here, man.
So what's different is you may or may not know Will's name by now. Will is like us, fairly new into the wholesaling real estate world, and so it's always good to have someone who is not only newer, but someone who's done deals and someone who has an incredible mindset to really grow their business. And so I heard Will's story when we chopped it up not too long ago, just kind of like an intro, getting to meet each other. And after hearing his story, I'm like, dude, we got to get you on the show. Like that's really cool. So I want to start it off, Will, just by giving people a little bit of background, man. If we can dive into your origin story, where are you from? What was life like growing up? How did you become the man you are today? So let's start there.
Sure. So obviously, Will Coggins. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm the oldest of four. I've got two incredible parents that have been unwavering in their support for me their entire lives, and I have an amazing family behind me. And so, born and raised in the same place. I had many different odd jobs growing up, a little bit of everything from working at a marina as a dockhand to working at an auto supply store to delivering Pepsis. Fast forward to about 21, 22. I never really wanted to go to college. Same. A lot of my family, and I think I'm going to be the only one of my siblings that doesn't end up going. They're all way smarter than me. I like to say sometimes they're going places. So I never really wanted to go to college. I never really had any desire to do any kind of formal education. And at a young age, around, I would say the age of 13 or 14, I really wanted to join the military. And never really took action on that until 22, when I initially went and signed up with the Navy recruiter. I was like, okay, I'm going to go be a Navy SEAL, do all the training, carry the boats, the whole 9 yards. Fast forward 6 months, I'm about to go into the Navy. I linked up with a guy who was a former Army Ranger, and had several conversations with him and decided this is the route that I'm going to take. So the day before I was supposed to ship out with the Navy, I went right next door to the Army recruiter and said, I've got all my paperwork with the Navy, but I want to go Army and I want to go do cool stuff. He's like, all right, cool. I'll get you in. Go to MEPS, did the whole sign up thing. MEPS is the entrance into the military. Everybody has to go and do all kinds of things like the infamous duck walk. And so I did that and shipped out to basic training 6 months later in September of 2017. Did about a year of training, went through Ranger assessment and selection twice, actually. That I failed land nav the first time and just decided to go through the whole thing again, as if one time wasn't enough. But that was cool. So August of 2018, graduated from RASP, shipped up to JBLM, Washington, and Tacoma in September of 2018, and was with 2nd Ranger Battalion for just over 3 years. I got out in November of 2021, and
got out of the Army.
Yeah, got out of the Army in 2021. Took about a month off, and then just went full blast into wholesale. I kind of tiptoed on the idea of real estate for a while because I knew that I didn't want to pursue a college degree, and I really enjoy problems that don't involve a lot of formalized education. And I feel like from my military background, I've got some street smarts.
Sure.
So there was a lot of carryover into real estate for me. For example, acronyms being one of the big ones. That started clicking immediately. It helped my learning curve. I started learning really quickly. So I first discovered real estate in probably June of 2021, the year that I was getting out. I knew I wanted to be my own boss, to be an entrepreneur, and then discovered, Jamil, Pace, Brent, and committed to a community. And I felt like that at the time, Jamil's astro flipping program just totally aligned with where I'm at and where I wanted to be. And the rest is history.
So did you attempt to do any deals or any real estate before joining the coaching group?
I did. So in I want to say October of 21, Pace did a free driving for deals challenge where all the sub 2 students get together. They help non-students who've never gotten their first deal get their first deal. And so I went through that, didn't get a deal, kind of put it on the back burner for a little bit. And I'm like, you know what? I really need to give this another shot. This seems like something really fun and really rewarding. And made the jump in January of last year and haven't looked back.
Dude.
That's
so
awesome.
Okay. So from the time you got out of the military to, the time you took real estate seriously, what were you doing for income?
So I was fortunate enough to have a lot of transition leave saved up. So
Nice.
I was still making a good amount really every month from the Army and then some. So I had a pretty good cushion for a while in terms of waiting to get my first deal. I put all of Astro on a credit card. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea if it even worked.
Right.
And just trusted the process. And then in March, I closed 2 deals within 2 weeks of each other. So it was bam, bam. My first deal was $1,200. It's the best $1,200 I've ever made in my entire life.
Hey, let's go.
Just the mindset shift and overcoming what you had no idea what was even possible was just, it was such a breakthrough for somebody like me who'd only worked either government or 9-to-5 W-2 jobs. Nothing wrong with those, to each their own. But for me, it was a huge breakthrough and has absolutely trickled down into my personal life in a very positive way.
Awesome. So,
That's awesome.
Dude, that's incredible. Okay. So you kind of, you were dabbling around real estate in June of 2021. And then January, I believe, of 2022 that's when you started with Astro, right? And then you said
right.
March, you had 2 back-to-back deals and you got that proof of concept. So January to March is it's not a lot of time by any means, but I know a lot of people that are kind of bummed out that, they don't get their deal in the first month or 2 or whatnot. What was your mindset like that kept you in the game?
My first thought.
Oh, all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, hang on one second.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Cool. Not sure what happened. I think I cut out.
No, you're good.
Okay. So my mindset between January and March timeframe. So my first and only thought at the time was, I've got to pay off this debt somehow. This credit card debt is racking up. It's not going to pay itself off. So I made a decision to where I didn't really have a way out, and I had to force myself into it in order to produce results. But day to day during that time, I had just moved out. I lived in the barracks for my entire time, and I just moved out into a place where I was renting a room for super cheap, like $400 a month. And I was just on my computer in my room every single day, just grinding it out. And
I was inspired by the success of people and other people in the group, Michelle Garabito, Brittany Berryman, the
Right.
people who have really exemplified the Astro community and what it means to be an Astro flipper. And for me, it was, I wanted to prove to myself that it was something that I could do, jump into a brand new skill and produce results from it. But I knew that I wouldn't get the results I wanted if I didn't do the work that was needed to get those results. And it's
Absolutely.
hard. It was hard then. And I can say that the experience of being in the driver's seat on deals is so important. I think that's, as a new guy, that's one thing I didn't understand. Perspective is everything. That's
Sure.
one thing I didn't understand that I not fully understand, but understand more so now.
Right.
Is that when you do a deal, the check is that's the very end of it. Everything
100%.
you learn in the process, talking to title, talking to buyers, talking to sellers, all of that, that's the most valuable part of it. And the check is just the reward and the value you brought to that particular transaction.
Tanner and I, we talk about it all the time, how when we got our check from our first deal, we weren't doing backflips or anything. You know, it was very, it just, you know, because it's like we'd been through so much, you know, you'd gone through so much from locking up that deal and all the stress, all the stuff that happens, you know, unless your first deal goes smoothly, which I don't wish for anyone. You know, I wish your first deal is kind of a pain in the ass, because if it's not, then your second deal will be. But yeah, and then you get the check and it's almost like, whew, it's like you just finished a race. Like you're not happy. You're just like, oh, done. Okay, cool. All right, now I got to do it again. You know? And so, yeah, that can be tricky. So a lot of people that are, you know, just wishing for that first deal, it's like, be careful what you wish for, you know, enjoy the journey. Cause that's the real process, you know, it's not the end. But you know, I totally get it. So let me ask you, when in those times, you know, where you're pushing through, where you're like, dude, I got to pay this freaking credit card bill off. Did you have a lot of uncertainty, or were you super confident that you were going to figure it out?
I had a lot of uncertainty. I knew that if I followed to a T what I was being taught and what other people are talking about on Zoom calls, like the calls we have with Jamil and then other student leaders throughout the weeks, I had a feeling. I wasn't 100% certain though. There's a lot of uncertainty that goes into it because you're making such a big jump. Friends, family members, all types of people that are speaking into your life may have some sort of say in that too, and be like, oh, you know, it's a really crazy time to be in real estate, and there's a lot of doubt that creeps in if you're not if you're not maintaining a healthy mindset. So absolutely, there was plenty of uncertainty and doubt through that process, but I just decided, hey, I'm gonna stick with this.
So
no matter what.
Is it fair to say that your why, your reason why, was the thing that kept motivating you through the uncertainty, or was it just, you know, proving the haters wrong, or what was it that got you through that?
Right. So what fueled me through that?
These are tough questions.
Yeah, no, these are good. Thanks.
A lot of stuff that, you know, people don't think about, you know, because you just go through it and then you do it. But, you know, when someone asks you, you're like, crap, okay, let me think back. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever really given it thought, but I think the biggest motivator was, hey, you know, getting out of time in the military and moving on to something else. I've got to do something. And I'm one of those people that I have to be pouring into something. I have to be producing. I have to be driving towards something, because I got out in November 21, went home for 3 weeks in North Carolina in December, and was dealing with the transition funk that a lot of us deal with and things like that. I'm thinking to myself, I've got to pour myself into something, because it's going to make my time getting out easier.
Sure.
But for me, it was, I've got to make something of myself, and now is the time to start. Now is the time to sow the seeds of success for the future, and what my future goals are.
What was the most uncomfortable part for you when you were getting started? You know, you're in the Astro course, you now have some guidance, but there was probably some stuff that was kind of maybe, you know, maybe you were hesitant on, or things that you just didn't want to do because it was out of your comfort zone. Can you think back to any of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. Biggest hurdle for me was talking to strangers on the phone,
Hmm.
for sure. Sellers, agents, and every time you talk to a stranger, you get a little bit of an adrenaline rush. You get a little bit of, you know, kind of a funny feeling, but overcoming that, and you develop confidence over time once you get the proof of concept, because you're not just talking to people as somebody who wants to do a deal. You're talking to people as someone who has done deals, and you know that you are the best solution for that person in whatever situation they're going through.
I think that's so important that you just said that. It's having the confidence and understanding the value that you bring to the table in this. And I think that it's one of the things, Tanner, I don't know if you agree, but people that are held back, they don't understand the value that they bring. You know, they almost minimize their their efforts and what they're doing, and they almost put the, you know, other people, what are other people going to think about me and whatnot, ahead of the fact that you are bringing value to the marketplace. You know, you're offering solutions to the seller that probably doesn't have, you know, a realistic way out of this thing. So that's incredible, that you said that. Thank you for that.
Well, let me ask this then real quick, because let's clear the air for some newer wholesalers. What were some of the things you were worried about with talking with sellers? Because obviously, you know, the common one seems to be, oh, I don't want them to think badly about me, or I don't know what I'm doing. Is that what you were feeling, or why was that something that made you feel uncomfortable?
Sure. And I would say that was at the time when I first started across the board: sellers, agents, buyers, even title companies, who are, you know, a very neutral part of the process. I would say that it was some of that imposter syndrome that Jamil talks about, and how important that is to understand when it does creep in, how to recognize it, and how to nip in the bud. Because for me, it was struggling with, like, gosh, I'm talking to people with authority, but I still haven't done a deal yet. That was the biggest hurdle in conversations that I feel like I had to overcome. Because if, say you're the seller and you're in a situation, pre-foreclosure, for example, and you need help, you want somebody who's competent. You don't want somebody who is you know, anxious and nervous and may stumble. And getting help from people who have been that has been by far my biggest, the driver of my success is the people around me, the people that have been there to support me, and that have held my hand through deals. I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. I wouldn't have and I have very little still, but I wouldn't have the experience I do had it not been for so many other people who have been instrumental every step of the way.
So how'd you get over? So you relied on other people for the imposter syndrome? How'd you get through that? Through other people? Is that what you're saying?
I would say I got through that through closing deals.
Action.
You know, working on like role playing with calls and things like that, talking to more people, and just literally going out there and trying to fail, literally falling flat on my face time after time after time again, until you get a point where you're a little bit in more of a groove, a little bit more of a place where you're, you know, you step back and look at a conversation and realize, hey, I got more traction this time than I did the previous time, because of either what I said or the experience that I've had. So,
Absolutely. What do you think is a challenge that you're currently facing in your business right now?
I would say it's definitely, right now it's falling short of KPIs, right? Like planning the day the night before, saying I'm going to make X amount of calls during this time block in the next day, and then it's frustrating when I don't hit those. right?
Right.
Sometimes, like for example, one thing that I've done is I'll make a list of on-market properties to call, say 15, 20 of those, and then 2 out of 20 agents answer the phone. And then I'm pushing it to the afternoon, following up, and then only 5 answer on the first day.
Right.
And there's this term that, it's 5 offers a day, 50 conversations a day, which is honestly a really arbitrary number, because it's that should always be the goal minimum. But in my opinion, I think that the quality matters so much more these days, because when you're contacting an agent, you're building a relationship. It's not a one-touch, one and done transactional kind of deal. Like when I connect with somebody, I want to be able to text them on their birthday. I want to know if they had another kid, if they're adding another one to the family.
Right.
So relationships, it's overemphasized so much, but it really is that simple.
Accountability sounds like a thing that may help you. Did you seek out any sort of sources of accountability? Like, did you have a partner, or were you involved in any groups or anything? Like, how did you, because a lot of times it's, especially when people are flying under the radar, if you're brand new, when you don't have anyone to be accountable to, it requires an insane amount of discipline, to stay in the game. Did you have any accountability sources?
Not really, no. In my first 6 months, I focused heavily on Washington State as my market. That's where I did my first couple deals. And there were a few students that I talked to on pretty much a daily basis that are still up in the Washington market doing deals. And I didn't ask anybody directly, like, hey, can we be like battle buddies or accountability partners or what have you? But I think it's having the intention of one of those I would say is getting really, really good at follow-up, because if you're adamant about your follow-up, that's your accountability.
Sure.
Instead of coming to a group and saying, hey, I'm new, I want to be accountability partners with so-and-so, or I need a mentor, or so, we've heard it all.
Sure.
But the biggest thing is, for me, I felt like coming into Astro and starting and doing deals and understanding the process, first things first is I felt personally responsible for contributing to that. And I thought, if I'm not bringing value through deals and experience, then I don't have much to offer. So maybe a little extreme, but that's kind of how my mind processed it, and how I don't think as much about that anymore, but that's how I processed it, getting into it and understanding the game.
No, that's very understandable. I think a lot of times people join with this expectation of everyone kind of coming to their rescue, and really doing everything in their power to help out, when ultimately, you just need to be resourceful. You need to figure out ways to keep yourself inspired and motivated and move forward, instead of relying on outside sources, to do that for you. I think that's a big difference in some of the people that have had success in this business fairly early on, and some of the people that take a while, as they learn to become more self-reliant. So I think that's an excellent answer. What's one of the greatest lessons that you've learned so far in your real estate journey?
The greatest lessons. Communication. Communication, the clearer, the better. What I mean by that is, I learned early on, when I had 3 deals bust in my first 6 months, is when you're communicating, whether it's, especially when title and escrow are involved, things like email chains create that accountability. I didn't learn, it took me several deals falling through to learn that, and how important that really is. So the sooner that you can get everybody in a transaction on the same page, the better. Because so that's one of them. So I'll kind of answer this twofold.
Sure.
that being one of them. And then another one, I am the king of shiny object. I went and did other things for months, didn't do the Astro method, got distracted, didn't have much success. The biggest thing is focusing on one method, one market as much as you can, and staying in one asset class. Like if you're gonna do single family, stick with that. If you're gonna do land, stick with that. If you're gonna do multifamily, then be that. Like anything you do, any field or asset class, strive to be that guy or that girl in that field, and strive to be known by that.
Very good point. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
Will, what would you say? What would you say is your superpower, bro?
My superpower.
Other than being so handsome, and I mean the beard is on point, bro. Come on.
Thank you. I've got a good oil recommendation if you want one. Anyway, my superpower. So, I would say assertiveness. Being in real estate has really helped me to make quicker decisions and make decisions on the fly. And in a field and in a time in our history and in our lives where there's a lot of, frankly, indecisiveness.
Sure.
If you can keep a clear head and make a quick decision, like people notice that. People are impacted by that. And with the opportunity that real estate brings, we also have an incredible responsibility too, because of what people are putting their trust in us. We have to make sure that we're doing everything we can, even when we're not working, to make sure that we stay on top of our game. We have to make sure that our skills are constantly being sharpened. Our personal relationships are solid. And coming from me, who I'm still figuring all of that out, it's important. You have to stay dialed in.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you made a great point with with your superpower being, your decisiveness. I think that's powerful because, so I was a part of a sales team a while back, and I remember going to one of our trainings, and there's this guy named John Addison who was the CEO of, I think, Prime America or something like that. It was a multi-level marketing company, and John Addison said, I'll never forget this. He said, in order to win in business, you got to be decisive. And he said, let's break the word decide down. He's like, decide. He's like, it ends in is-side. He's like, what else can we think of that ends in is-side? Suicide, homicide, pesticide. What is decide? He said, decide is the death of all other options. That's decide. So, dude, I think that's powerful, man. If that's your superpower, and you're able to be decisiveness, I'm pretty sure that's going to serve you very well in business and in your real estate career. So that's a huge one, man. What's so far, you've been at this for a little while now, what's been your most interesting failure so far?
Coming on the backs of a decisiveness question.
Don't worry, we'll edit the pause out.
biggest failure. I wouldn't necessarily call it a failure. I'd say one of the biggest lessons is vet who you work with. Make sure the people that you work with are on the same page. Whatever your values, whatever your values are, whatever your alignment and your moral compass is, make sure the people that you are working with, whether it be a wholesaler, an agent, whoever, make sure they're on the same page.
Well, take a few minutes and be a little bit more specific. You don't have to break down, you don't have to give us names or anything, but let us know the situation that you went through, because I'm sure there's other people that'll be able to relate.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So back in the one that stands out to me the most is back in June, kind of right when the markets started to take a shift. I had a deal brought to me in Seattle, about 30 minutes south of Seattle. And the guy who the wholesaler who had it had a really big assignment fee on it. I mean, it was 50 grand, huge assignment fee on a single family home that was in pretty good shape too. At the time, I was really hungry for my next deal, and I glossed over some things, his character being one of them. And so I saw, got everything I needed to. I saw the contract. I found the buyer, all of that. And there were some issues with the title company. So that the end buyer had a hard money lender lined up, and the hard money lender found out that there was a double close happening, and they didn't fund it. And it was a lot of back and forth. The title company actually they released earnest money prematurely too, which caused a lot of friction. So that house of cards fell apart within really like a day. And circling back, that for me really kind of resonated. Hey, you need to make sure that the people that you're working with know what they're doing, and if not, then at least kind of feel them out, ask them certain questions to make sure all the boxes are checked, because our buyer relationships are super important. We have to make sure that if we're working with somebody else on the front end, that they're doing everything that we need to provide a quality product, which is
absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you shifted my question from, failure to lesson. It lets me know a lot about your mindset, man. You don't look at this as I screwed up, a failure. It's like, no, cool. I learned from this. Now, it's not going to happen again moving forward. So that's sick, man. Let's flip that around. And what's been your most interesting success so far? Like just a fun story of something that happened to you.
Sure. So I kind of went off and did some direct to seller, didn't have much success, spent a bunch of money on marketing, and kind of circled back around to the Astro Group and getting really involved. And I'd say around early December, mid-November. So I know that there are a lot of people out there who, and I'll get to your question, I promise. There are a lot of people out there who are looking at things and systems, and everybody's telling you to buy something, buy Privy, PropStream, all this stuff. Keep it simple. Right now, all I'm using is Privy, PropStream, and Google Docs. That's it. I'm not using Podio, sure, every now and then, but if you can keep it as simple as possible, your learning curve shortens. So biggest win so far was we just closed a creative deal with Abraham Gray, who you guys just had on recently. What an incredible guy. Mad respect for Abraham. Shout out to him. And so I networked with the wholesaler who had it tied up. It was a sub-2 seller finance hybrid at principal only, and it was a pre-foreclosure deal. So we had about 10 days left until the auction date when I'd gotten it. So time was really, really tight. It was right after Christmas, right in between New Year's, when people are off for the holidays. And we got it to the closing attorney, and they pushed it. I mean, they put their full attention onto it. It was crazy. There were 3 title search comes back with 3 liens totaling about $80,000. There was just all sorts of problems and things that had to be solved. And again, Abraham was a big part of why we got this deal closed, because there were some things that even the attorneys couldn't figure out, that he had to jump in and say, hey, let's do this, this, and this to make sure that this guy's taken care of. So we ended up closing on that so we closed on the 30th of December, and the auction date was scheduled for the next Tuesday, and we had the arrears balance paid off 10 minutes before day of close.
Oh my gosh.
So it was, fourth quarter, no time on the clock, and you got to throw a touchdown pass.
Nice little Hail Mary.
Pretty much. So that was a really fun one, kind of a introduction into the creative world. Both me and the other wholesaler, who's actually supposed to be getting a seller finance assignment fee as well. So we both made 15 on that one. That was a really fun deal.
15K?
And yeah, man.
Nice.
Awesome.
So That was
a
really fun one. Oh, absolutely.
Keep rolling into the new year.
That's phenomenal. That's a cool story. I love hearing this success stories. I love hearing the failure stories too, because again, it's just it creates an ability for people to relate. I've said this before, but when I first got started, before my first deal, I downloaded so many podcasts in my brain. I mean, I had heard every story at that point to where I was almost bulletproof going into, making my calls and whatnot. Cause I'd seen and heard so many, well, not seen, but I'd heard of so many situations. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a wild ride. So thanks for sharing that, man. And just to let everyone know, like as far as systems go and whatnot, Will is absolutely right. Keeping things simple in the beginning is definitely the way to go. It keeps your costs down. You don't need too many crazy systems, especially when you're a one-man show. So yeah, don't get caught up in all that. But I do want to take a minute, for a quick plug on Privy, because Privy is a phenomenal software. If you're doing any kind of wholesaling, where Privy's mostly on market, right? It's an on market software. So it gives you access to the MLS essentially all across the nation. And in our Astro community, we're big proponents of using Privy because our model is mostly all about, working with agents and getting your deals. And so Privy is just a great tool to help you get all the info that you need. And it just makes it so simple. So we do we're a huge advocate of Privy. We're what do you call it? Affiliates. And so I guess quick plug, gotprivy.com if anyone wants to look into Privy. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up, man. That's a really, really important fact that I think a lot of people kind of focus on the systems. I need all these systems. And it's like, no, you don't, dude. What'd you say? You had Google spreadsheets, Privy, and something else?
Yeah, it's like I said, as simple as possible. Right now I'm using it's PropStream, Privy, and Google Docs.
Got you.
It's that simple. If you have a way to, when you're getting deals or going after deals, you can process those deals, make sure they are deals, and then create a separate Google Doc sheet for offers. It's that simple. The offer sheet is after they've been comped, of course, and obviously make sure you have a buyer or at least an idea of somebody who will buy it.
There's a gentleman in Astro that I spoke with recently who you talk about simple. So he's from Africa, and I don't know if that's relevant or not, or that's why he does this, but he's got the most simplest process. He doesn't use Privy, he doesn't use Batch, he doesn't use any of that stuff. He uses Zillow, 100% Zillow, and he communicates to agents through email. He doesn't even text or call. He does all of his deals through email. And we got to get him on because that
would drive me nuts. Isham knows how much I'm not an email guy.
So I don't know how he has the patience for that.
I know. I've got like 2 screens behind me and kind of geeking out on, looking at a bunch of different things at once. And that's ultra simplistic. But hey, if he's making it happen, then
yeah,
for the props on
him. Yeah. Right.
Dude, Will, so as we kind of come to a close and wrap this up, again, thank you for your time, brother. I want to ask you and I think you kind of said this earlier, but I just want to ask you more directly. What's a word of inspiration you have to other wholesalers that are getting started?
Keep going. Stay consistent. There's a lot of people are getting out of the game right now, and a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines. And lean into it. Lean into your community. Lean into your network. Make sure that you have people who in your life who are supportive, because it can get lonely out there. When you go 3-4 months without a closing, it can get lonely sometimes. And keep pushing. It sounds incredibly simple, but it really is that simple. If you've done a deal, do what works. If you have not done a deal yet, then replicate the success of other people, and you will get where you want to be so much faster, especially if you're able to learn from their mistakes. I'm always happy to share my mistakes and my shortcomings, because that will shorten somebody else's learning curve. Those of us who have done deals, we have to make sure we're passing the torch to the people who haven't yet.
I think it's incredibly important too. What you said is, obviously, like you said, it's a simplistic saying of keep going, but more than ever right now, I always tell people, like, in this market, sure, is it tougher, or, you know, are the deals come as easy? No. I mean, there's a lot more. That's where a few things that you've said throughout the podcast, that's where it really correlates right now, that, you know, like you said, where it's, you know, quality over quantity at this point, because relationships are what you need in a market like we're in right now. Mm-hmm. And then not only that is the people that are on the sidelines. I heard a quote not too long ago, and it was like, have you ever met a successful person that quit? As long as you don't quit, you're going to be successful. It's as simple as that. And so there's so many success stories in this business specifically where, man, you can go up and down a list of everyone, listen to all the different stories, all the different people, and all that wonderful stuff. And all the same people that ended up successful in this business or their company or whatever it is, all have the same thing, which is they didn't quit. No matter what the difference was between a deal. Some people didn't get a deal for a year and a half, 2 weeks, 2 months. Right. But as long as they just kept going, success will find you. Because like you said, also, you're going to learn. You need to fail. You have to fall flat on your face. So that's the only way you're going to learn. Real quick, the last thing I'll say is I was having a talk with someone else earlier today, and it was the same thing. I told him, I go, as Isham mentioned earlier, my first 3 deals didn't even feel like I did anything. They didn't feel good because the deals were so easy. Now it's like I tell people all the time, it's like, please, obviously no one wants a deal to fall through, no one wants to fail, none of that. But it's so important that you accept the failure in a way, so that way you can grow, because that's what's ultimately going to make you better. You said a lot of gems on this episode, and I hope a lot of new wholesalers actually listen to this episode twice, because I think your obviously story is incredible, but you're incredibly relatable in a lot of ways. And so you're a rock star, man.
Thank you, Will. Tanner. I appreciate you.
Brother, keep going, keep pushing. I love it, dude. Well, Will, dude, how can people, like, what market are you in? How can people work with you and get in touch with you?
Yeah. So right now I'm in the Atlanta market, and we've got a rock star group of people also in the Atlanta market, and Astro.
Yeah, you do.
some killers down there. Yeah, so trying to replicate their success and get and understand it more. So my handle for Instagram and Facebook is just my name. It's WN Coggins, WNCOGGINS. Facebook and Instagram. It's where you can find me.
Sweet. Is that how you prefer?
Yeah, either or. That's it. Facebook's probably better, but as far as getting a hold of me, but yeah, I'm here to help anybody who wants to chop it up or ask questions. And if I don't have the answer, I'll find somebody who does.
Well, yeah, you got some real estate wizards there in Atlanta, so keep it rocking, man. You're golden.
Yeah, and Will's, like, for anyone who doesn't know, Will is a distro beast. Like, distro meaning distribution. Like, bring him deals, he's got buyers. Like, he's super connected in the ATL. But you know, the deal he was just talking about, or the success story where he mentioned Abraham Gray. Abraham Gray is someone who is a multi-millionaire. He's got over 60 different companies. And he's in the Astro community, you know, and he's connected with Will Coggins. There's Raki Zidane. Raki's he's just an incredible human being who, you know, not only has a massive business, but he just has a massive heart as well and loves helping people. So Will's tied into all these people, guys. So if you've got deals in the ATL area, definitely send them Will's way, because he'll get them closed for sure. Will, brother, thank you so much, man. It's been real. It's been a lot of fun. Anything you wanted to say, Tanner or Will, before we cut it loose?
Well, go ahead, man. What's the final words, bro?
I'm grateful for you too. I told somebody earlier today, they asked me what I'm doing, and I said I'm hopping on a podcast with 2 guys who are interviewing some high level people in real estate, and I'm honored. So thank you guys for making this podcast. I will absolutely promote it and hope you guys just absolutely blow up. It's been a blast though, guys. Thank you.
Awesome, brother.
Awesome, man. Appreciate that.
Well, guys, keep going. Like Will said, your success is inevitable, and we want to see you on the next episode of the Wholesale Elite podcast. So until then, keep listening. We'll see you next time, guys. Peace. What up, Elite fan? That's a wrap for today's episode. But look, if you got value out of the show today, do us a huge favor and give us a review, or give us a like, or subscribe. Do all the things to help us get the word out there. And look, we want to see you on the next show. So get out there and crush it, make it happen. Stay tuned for the next episode. Peace.